Howdy, folks, and welcome to another episode of TASB Talks, the podcast where we bring you the latest happenings and insights into Texas public education. And hello from YouTube. If you are watching us for the first time, we are going to be incorporating a video podcast moving forward, in addition to our standard audio form. So if you'd like to watch these episodes, make sure to subscribe to @TASB News on YouTube. You'll find not only the latest episodes of this podcast, but also all kinds of other great content that our media services team is cooking up. So shout out to those guys. And on that note, I'm your host, Matt Mitchell, Senior Communications Specialist here at TASB, and I am joined once again by Dox Gonzalez, Division Director of TASB Governmental Relations. Dox, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Matt. I'm excited to be doing the video version for the first time. It's new territory for us.
It is. We're really moving up in the world, I would say. And speaking of the world and the state of things, and here in our state, it's been kind of a busy week. So first, wanted to kind of jump right in. We had Governor Abbott's State of the State address Sunday night. Obviously, it's a big deal. Yeah. And to no one's surprise, education and school choice was pretty big on his list of priorities. So can you just kind of walk us through some of his emergency items and how they relate to public education?
Right. So the State of the State is really a chance for the governor to lay out his priorities for this coming legislative session, the one that we are currently in. And there weren't really a lot of surprises in there. There were maybe a couple more emergency items than I thought might have been announced. But things that we could have expected to come out of this were property tax relief was one of his emergency items, and that is something that certainly most folks had on their bingo cards. School choice was something that was on there, some kind of education savings account program. That was something that I think most folks figured would be on there. But some other things that were on there, he called for an investment in water. The availability of water across the state is something that is very important, and that is something that he has said is going to be on one of his emergency items. Also, increasing teacher salary. I think that's something very important that the Senate is also looking at in terms of things that the Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick, has already announced it is on his list of priorities to move forward. So that's something that we can look to as the session moves on. He called for career training expansion to help individuals get more industry certifications and things that will help them to find jobs that will have them lead better lives. And then things like bail reform, Texas Cyber Command creation, other issues that I didn't have on my bingo card, maybe others did, but those are certainly things that he listed as his priorities for this coming session.
So was any of this surprising to you, or was it kind of status quo, kind of what you expected out of it?
Well, yeah, like I said, there were a couple things on there that I didn't necessarily expect. I would have really liked to see something about general public school funding. I think that's something that is very important. When you increase the basic allotment, you increase teacher salaries as well. So we'll see how the legislature navigates that priority in terms of the available funds that they have for public education and what will end up happening in a final bill.
And speaking of vouchers and school choice, the Texas Senate met last night. That would be Wednesday. This is now Thursday, February 6th. And they met to debate and vote on Senate Bill 2. So for those of you who don't know, that's the voucher bill legislation. So what's the latest with that? Where is that headed now?
Well, again, nothing that folks didn't expect. The bill sailed out of the Senate yesterday on a vote of 19-12. And it is something that they did discuss for quite a bit of time. They started sometime just after noon and went till about 8 o'clock, just before 8 o'clock.
Long day at work.
Yes. And a lot of it is establishing people's positions on the bill. And there was a lot of discussion about amendments, and there were some amendments that were included in the bill. The Chair Creighton, who is the author of the bill, did take some amendments to Senate Bill 2 from what was introduced in the committee hearing back last week. So a lot of those changes revolved around requests from the Texas Controller's Office to tweak the bill to help them implement the bill better, because the controller will be the one that is kind of overseeing the program. And so they went through that bill and tried to find ways to help them do that better. So a lot of those changes were related to that. But there were just other changes. One of Creighton's amendments allowed the certified education assistance organizations to be for-profit or nonprofit. You can take that for what it is. And there are some things in here like allowing the controller to have more flexibility in selecting vendors for the program. One notable change that I think folks should be aware of is that it does increase the amount of a voucher for homeschool children. For those that have a disability, it increases the amount by $500. So under the old legislation, homeschool children would get a $2,000 ESA, and this amendment would increase that to $2,500 just for those students who are homeschooled and have a disability. So for other homeschoolers, it's still $2,000. But just a lot of changes that came out yesterday.
So it feels like this bill kind of passed through the Senate pretty quickly after the session started. Now it goes to the House. What sort of a time frame can we expect with it now?
It's going to take some time. The House has yet to announce their committee chairs, and so without a committee structure, they can't consider any legislation. So once they announce the chairs of their committees, or the makeup of their committees, I should say, and really that could happen tomorrow. It could happen next week. We don't really know. But once that happens, then they'll start referring bills, and then they will start setting up hearings, and then considering the bills and moving through. So it really all depends on how quickly the House wants to act on this particular issue. There are several other emergency items that the governor has announced, and so we'll just have to see. It could be, a couple of weeks, and it could be the rest of the session. It just all depends. And really, the Senate traditionally has sent out a school choice bill every session for the past at least 4 or 5 that I can remember. But they get their bill out pretty quickly, and the House is usually more deliberative about what's in it, and you've got to get 150 folks to decide to agree on a bill. So, well, I guess really you only need half of them, but it helps when you have more folks agree on it. So, but you do have to get at least a majority of those 150 to agree on a bill and get it out of the House. So I think there'll be a lot of deliberations on whatever the House is working on regarding a school choice bill.
So you mentioned the House committee assignments. That's a piece of breaking news we're still kind of waiting on. Depending on when you're listening to this, it could already have happened. For the sake of this episode, hopefully they can wait maybe a few more days for us to publish this. We'll see. But can you just kind of explain the role that that's going to play? You kind of touched on it in your explanation for SB 2, but the House committee assignments, kind of like, what are they? What do they mean for people that aren't super familiar?
Yeah, committee assignments are very important in really the House and the Senate, but it really sets the tone for how legislation is going to work through the system. You have the chair's personality will kind of shape how the committee is going to operate. And you might have committee chairs that want to hear as many bills as possible, knowing that most of them won't pass, but giving legislators who sponsor those bills a chance to get their bill heard, or those who are more focused on bills that they feel are going to move forward. And so they're minimizing the amount of bills that they hear. So it can go either way. And then you have chairs that really take in a lot of public comment, and maybe they're taking 3 minutes per public testifier, or those that are really trying to get through the process faster, because maybe they have scheduled more bills, so they're taking 2 minutes of public testimony. So there are just a lot of different factors that play into the process, and a lot of that depends on who that chair is. And while most people think that it will still be Chairman Brad Buckley from last session, who chaired House Public Education, you just never know. And so I am not a betting man, Matt, so I don't like to put chips down. But I will say that a lot of folks think that that's what's going to happen, and I don't see any reason why it wouldn't.
Well, while we wait for that news to break in the next couple days, is there anything else we should be kind of keeping our eye on moving forward?
Well, I think the committee assignments are the thing that we most really need to be paying attention to, and folks need to be looking out for. These bills are still being filed, so we're paying attention to any bills that seem like a reason for concern or support or anything like that. So, but right now everything is going how sessions go. It's usually a pretty slow start. A lot of ceremonial things happening right now, and then as we get committees named, as we get committees working on bills, then things really start to move, and then you'll really see the legislature, getting into action.
So you're saying we should enjoy the downtime while we can.
They had the House football game, I think yesterday or the day before. I can't remember anymore, Matt, but it's still these things that really are meant to build camaraderie among these folks. It's like they're team building, because they will be working in a very high stress situation for the next few months. And the more that they can get along with each other to come up with better legislation, it just helps everyone. So so enjoy this part. But there'll be plenty of action and plenty of popcorn moments to come. So it'll be exciting.
And we enjoyed having you on once again. Thanks for taking the time out of your, schedule that will be busier in the coming months, I should say. But thanks again for being here. We really appreciate it. And thank you to our listeners and our watchers for tuning in. Again, you can find us on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. So thanks a lot, everyone. And Docs, thanks so much for coming on once again.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
And we will see you all next time.